There's no phone.
Yeah. Nice, sir. In the house. Go ahead and look for your phone, sir, while we allow the stream to start streaming. I'm sure you guys can hear me. Okay. I'm sure you guys can hear me, but nicer if you can, please be kind and let's get a one. I'm sure you guys can hear me, but nicer if you can.
There we go.
Yes. I mean, I heard it from your phone, so I'm sure that they can hear.
Yes, right.
Excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, how's everyone doing? How's everyone doing today? Today, we're going to talk about buying and selling and the psychology behind it. But first, we have someone. This is your fourth appearance, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Just like that, it's number four already. So we have someone who's not a stranger to the channel, Aitwa, aka New Game. You guys
Follow.
know him. It's four times in the channel now. Okay, we've had several conversations, and it's always a pleasure to have a conversation. Let's start out with just start out. Well, how are you doing? How are you doing this post-election saga and so on and so forth? What's going on, man?
I'm good. I always believe that no matter who's in charge, we have a responsibility to society to be productive, to be kind, to be effective, and in our various roles, whether married, a parent,
Mm,
an employee, an artist, whatever it is that you do, that responsibility does not change and will continue regardless of who's sitting on top. And I do believe that the president represents our attention to politics, that in a larger scale than we've
mm.
ever seen. It is in. I mean, the U.S. has it. We made history, right? With the highest number of votes in the U.S. history. So that just means
Yes,
everyone's paying attention. So, but
I
other than that,
see.
we're good and sane.
I see. I did not really even think about that because again, I mean, it's Donald Trump. He's a WWE guy. He's a reality TV show guy, and the importance of the WWE is a direct reflection of how many people pay attention to the WWE, right? So similar to the presidential election, I always kind of say, and this doesn't matter who is in power, right? In terms of
Right,
what president it is, whether they be good, bad, or indifferent, regardless of how you think about them.
right,
The fact that people pay attention so much to the presidential election is a reflection of a certain kind of laziness because if you really care about political power, there are things that you can do and they're usually local things, okay? You know, things as little as your PTA to your local councilman and the local sheriff and the local
yep,
judges, and those are the things that actually affect your daily lives,
that's
okay?
right,
Those are the things that affect the stop signs and your child's school and the potholes and local taxes and so on and so forth, property taxes, those kinds of things. People rather not do anything, okay? You know the psychology, right? It's like,
of
okay, well,
course,
if I actually paid attention to the things that matter, now I actually have to do something. I actually have
right,
to go to the local council meeting and do this and do
right,
that. I'm going to go to a place where I don't have to do anything, which is rah rah presidential politics, right?
right,
So very interesting there, and the fact that we have had a record turnout is in a particular sense a good thing. Okay,
right.
in a particular sense, but in another sense, it's just okay. Well, nice WWE match going on, and it's uh it's good fun. So I'm glad that you're doing well, and I think that the sentiment you just expressed is very apt and appropriate. That regardless of who's president, we do have our obligations do not change, our responsibilities
That's right.
do not change. So today we're going to be talking about understanding the buyer. So let's just dive right into it. Why is it important to understand the buyer, buying and consumer habits and psychology? Why is it important to understand that?
Well, it's important to understand the buyer because it helps the sales representative know exactly where that buyer is. Because you might be meeting a buyer in a different stage in the buying process.
Okay.
So it's kind of like if you are, I always use the expression of cake, right?
Hmm.
There's a point where the cake you're just collecting the materials, then there's a point where you're mixing the materials, right? and
Mm-hmm.
then that has to happen before it goes in the oven. So we
Mm-hmm.
can't buy the ingredients and put them in the oven. So it's important to understand the buying process so we know what point is the cake at. Is it time to put icing? Is it time to mix it? Is it time to add a little bit more, maybe put some chocolate tips in there for flavor? Where are we at in the cake process? Same thing when you're looking at a potential buyer. If you are a seller, you want to know where your buyer is so you can make sure that you're meeting them at the right stage of the buying process.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So, because one thing as a salesperson of any kind, as a customer facing person of any kind, an entrepreneur of any kind, is we have our cycles, okay, or we
Right.
have our agendas. We may say, you know what, I'm prospecting right now, or right now I'm trying to understand the value in order to give a proposal. I'm trying to close this person right now. And
Right.
we're just thinking that, oh, we run the ship, they are going to go with our program, right? But it
Right.
is important to know that, yes, you may be ready to put the ingredients in the oven, to use your analogy, but the cake is not mixed yet. You have not put the right things in the right order. You know, the customer is not ready to be put in the oven yet,
Right.
regardless of what your particular intentions are, which are driven by your need to meet your quota or whatever, right? So,
Right.
do you find what mistakes in this particular regard do you have you found salespeople to make? Now, it may seem trivial, but you've just said it is important to understand the customer. Okay.
Right.
Do you have like examples of how either yourself or someone that you've noticed in your leadership position, the common mistakes that people make vis-a-vis not understanding the stages and the customer?
Yeah, I have lots of examples. I'll give you one that when I was training a representative when I used to work in sales for Verizon, the customer came in and the customer was curious. They said, "Hey, I just noticed there's a Verizon store right here. I'm just curious." And
Mm,
this sales representative, said, "Okay, we've got some really good specials going on right now. Let me show you right now. You could buy one
mm,
phone and get another phone free." And even right now, and they didn't even ask any questions. Okay, so you're just looking. Maybe perhaps the first
mm,
question would have been, "Well, what are you looking for?" Let's just kind of interview the customer a little bit. What are you looking for? Are you looking to how old is your phone? Maybe that's a good question. Perhaps
mm,
it's an opportunity to offer an upgrade. Do you have any children, or have you ever thought about a family plan? It's an opportunity to, so the more you interview the customer, the more you understand what stage they are. So the customer was just kind of like, okay, well, I'm just looking around, and they walked away. So they got frightened away, for lack of a better word, right?
mm. That's a good point there. The questions thing. The questions thing is something that comes up a lot in sales, right?
Right.
So in this particular topic we're talking about, which is understanding the customer, you need questions.
Right.
In the getting into the particulars of the customer's problem, regardless of what stage they are in, you need questions in order to close a customer, even if it's a hard close like PayPal or Cash App, right?
Right.
It's still the question. Questions are very, very important. And again, this is something that a lot of, especially the introvert types, tend to think, oh, but I don't have all that small talk skills and so on and so forth. It's like, no, you just have to be able to be curious and ask the right questions. The guy came to you and said, and also be relaxed. Oh, in your particular example, right? The guy comes and says, I'm just curious. And like, oh, you're curious, right? That could be the question. The question could be literally you repeating what they said. It's like,
Exactly.
oh, you're curious, right? And then let the water continue to flow because people do like to talk. So yeah, that's rather interesting. So now you said that there are in a previous conversation off camera that there are 5 stages.
That's
Okay,
right.
and these 5 broad categories that we can use. Would you want to introduce us to those 5 stages?
Yeah, definitely. The first stage, it just flows right what we're talking about is what we call the problem identification, meaning that your customer, if he said, let's go back to
Mm,
that one customer, I'm curious. That means he is connected that I might have a problem, I might
mm,
have a need, right? So in interviewing the customer, you start to check off, is this what stage? So there are 5 stages in the buying process. Number one is a problem identification. So that just means you're just identifying what problems your customer has, and then you can start building a product package or a sales pitch to meet your customer's needs. That's the priority. I'm solving your problem. In a sense, sales, you're a problem solver,
Mm-hmm.
right? So let's take that one customer. How would I have played it? I just walked in. I'm just curious. So you start asking questions, and your questions could be, okay, you're curious. Okay, I'm just curious though. What are you curious about? Oh, I just want to see what kind of phones you have. Oh, great. Well, what kind of phone do you have? Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
have an iPhone 4. Oh, you keeping the old classic. That's one of the best iPhones ever. You just complimented the customer. You're saying that you're a smart person. You're holding on to your stuff for a long time. But the reality, your sales mind is saying you need a new phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now we have what, iPhone 12, and then you can start to ask some more questions. So what kind of phone are you looking for? Maybe the customer says, oh, the camera is not taking really good pictures anymore, my battery life is not. So now you've suddenly have some points. You have a bad camera, your battery is not charging very well, and your phone's not holding enough, you're running out of space. So all of a sudden, those are 3 things the customer has told you, right? You file that in the
Mm-hmm.
back of your head, and then you can use that further down in the sales process. And the next process would be that the customer shopping. So if a customer walks into a store, they immediately went past, I might need a new phone process, right? That's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next phase would be, okay, I'm curious. That means that this is a place that
Mm-hmm.
could potentially solve my problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is where, as a salesperson, this is where you make your best impression, because the next phase would be the decision. I'm going to choose where I'm going to go. So, for some of us, some of you on the chat or listening to this, you've heard of Costco or Sam's Club, and people would choose to go to Sam's Club or Costco because they get a better bundled deal, right? And that's because they've made their comparisons. They've done their research. They found out that, hey, a pack of 4 toothpaste at Target, I mean, a pack of 4 toothpaste at Sam's Club or Costco is cheaper versus going to Target, buying them one or buying 4 pieces. So your job as a sales representative is to help them in that third stage, which is, where am I going to make this? Where am I going to solve this problem that I have? So step
Mm-hmm.
one, I have a problem. Step two, I'm going to look for where I can solve this problem. And step three, I found the place. So you have to pay attention to what phase is the person. The person walks in, they told me this is a Verizon store where I can get my phone. They've already gone past stage one. They've already gone past stage two. They're at stage three. They're here to buy. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the fourth stage is the purchase process, right? So let's go back to a phase in the first stage. We said, hey, you have a problem, and the customer said, I wanted to my cameras doesn't my iPhone 4 doesn't take that good of a picture, my battery is going down. Now you can say, I've got this phone right here, this is the iPhone 12, it takes fantastic pictures, right? And it's got a 12-hour battery life, and they come now with at least 256 gigabyte of space.
Mm-hmm.
So unknowingly to the customer, you've taken their needs and what they said was their problem with their current phone, and you have tied a product to solving that problem. Okay. So that's stage four. Now you've said, I know what you need. You've done your research, you've looked at different stores, and now you've chosen my store, which is the third phase. And now this is where your sales skills go to work, which is the stage where you're selling something to the customer and they're buying that product. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in this phase, this is where you have to be, we could talk about closing, we can talk about add-ons. So I see that you have taken good care of your phone. Maybe when the customer brought out their old phone, you noticed that it was in the case. You say,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, you look like someone that takes really good care of your stuff because you've had that iPhone for years, right?" So I think you definitely need a phone case. And you might want to get a screen protector because some of these phones, they're not as strong as the ones that you have. What you're doing, you're reinforcing to the customer, you're a smart man. You kept your phone really good. You make good decisions. So I'm here to help you to continue making those good decisions. So when you suggesting all the add-ons, now you're saying, hey, you need a screen protector so you can keep your phone. It doesn't last as long as the other ones. You need a case to carry it in case it falls, things like that. So that's where you start making add-ons by first interviewing the customer in that first stage. Now, the last stage of the buying process is one that is often misunderstood. This is, I mean, the name of this phase is called the post-purchase behavior. What
Mm-hmm.
that means, I want everyone listening to this, just think about the last time you bought, I don't know, a phone, a car, maybe a new gadget or something, and you notice that you'll find yourself telling someone, maybe you take a picture on social media, hey, just got a new fill in the blank, or you come home and you're telling someone what you did. That is called a post-purchase behavior. It's your way of solidifying the decision that you just made. There's often a little bit of guilt.
Mm.
A little bit of guilt says, gosh, did I get the right deal? Was that salesman too smooth? Did I really need this extra case? So the worst thing you want to do as a salesperson is to say, you have made the best choice today. Because what you're saying is that it's possible not to make the best choice. So there are some things that
Mm.
you don't want to do in that because that's the phase where if you are in sales and your customer comes back, that hurts your
Mm-hmm.
incentive. That hurts your incentive. It hurts your overall numbers. It hurts your performance. So how do you do that? You make sure that give the customer a variety of things that they can immediately do with the new product. For example, he just took the phone. Maybe his previous iPhone couldn't record videos in 3D. So when
Mm-hmm.
you're showing him the phone, I'm going to show you something really cool. And then you demonstrate the phone, right? And that suddenly gets him excited to do something that he hasn't
Mm-hmm.
been doing
Okay.
before. If not, it's just going to be okay. I've got my new phone. I'm just making calls and sending text messages like I was doing yesterday. And
Mm.
then all of a sudden, a week later, someone's gonna come see you back at the office and say, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with my iPhone 4." So you have to make sure that you show them as much as the product can do. Never leave them looking for the manual. Never leave them not understanding how to do a few things, because that discourages the post-purchase behavior, and that could encourage a return or an unsatisfied customer. And we have a saying in business: one happy customer can bring 10 other customers. One
Mm-hmm.
unhappy customer you could lose like 100. so
Yes.
you have to make sure you take care of that phase, because we're so caught up in, I've got the customer, I've sold them. How many times do we have a friend or relative that buy something and they come home and maybe they bought a car, and then you say, "Oh, nice car. How do you open the trunk?" "Oh, I don't know." "Did they set up your phone on the Bluetooth?" "Oh, I don't know." And they start feeling uncomfortable. So as a
Mm-hmm.
salesperson, you have to make sure your client, your customer or client leaves you very satisfied and knowing that they have made a good decision, and that will encourage them sharing it on Facebook. That's why you'll see someone get a new phone, they come home, they want to take a picture, they want to post, they're excited to use all the new features. So the more you can show them about that new product, the longer I mean, not I don't want to say the longer, the more you show them the product and all the new features, you're
Mm-hmm.
promoting a better post-purchase behavior versus the other one, the opposite, where they don't feel satisfied or discouraged, and then they come back to see you, and that's never good news for a salesperson.
So
Unless it's a referral, right?
good. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's that. Referrals are good. Referrals are great. So I was just kind of curious: is understanding the buying process, is it something that you ever use in order to understand yourself as a purchaser? Because in fact, we buy more than we sell, even if we're a salesperson, right?
Right, right.
So, have you ever used this to kind of understand yourself for whatever reasons? Maybe just to understand yourself that way, you can understand whether or not maybe you're evaluating whether you're going to buy from this particular salesperson. You're trying to see if they're good or not, or just for your own personal psychology. Do you use this on yourself, or do you only kind of use it more to understand?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, what's funny is when I was making some purchases in my studio, I was
Mm,
just looking on Amazon. I'm searching for stuff, looking and looking and looking, and I asked myself, okay, wait a second. Do I really have a problem? Yes. Okay. So I have this problem. I want to get this microphone. Okay. Now let's see but who has the best price? So I went through Amazon, eBay, Sweetwater, ZZ Sounds, Guitar Center, and I noticed that the microphone had the same price, regardless of wherever it is I went.
mm,
So I just thought to myself, you know what? I'm just gonna go down to the local guitar center because I could walk away with it tonight. If I get it on Amazon, I have to wait a couple
mm,
days. So and that narrowed down. So there, of course, there are factors that affect where your buyer is. So let's go back to the first step: problem identification. Right? If you know what the customer's problem is, you know that they want to solve that. They want to solve that problem,
Mm-hmm.
and you are you're there to help solve the problem. But sometimes what happens is some customers have problems, and we are trying to sell them something that's out of either their pocket, or maybe we didn't interview them long enough to understand they have a family before we start suggesting these high-end products. Maybe the
Mm-hmm.
wife might not be happy. So that's an advanced metrics. But going back to your question, do I use this in my process? Absolutely. Then when I bought the microphone, I remember the first thing I did is I pulled up an old record that was recorded with the older microphone and redid the vocals. Honestly, it didn't sound as good as the old one, but I told myself that it sounds good because I know that I'm in that phase right now in my post
Mm-hmm.
purchase where I'm like, but what happened a few weeks later? I realized that I had to know how to. I learned how to tweak the mic. I learned how to record on it better. But was the salesperson there to help me? No, this microphone sells itself. People go in the store and buy it.
Mm.
So yeah, definitely I use that on myself, and I use it every time. I always ask myself, do I really need this? And if you make that same thought process, do I really need this? You realize that some of the things that you want to purchase, they're just wants. But a true sales, a true product, a product that gets that goes through the complete cycle is really more of a need.
Mm-hmm. Need that solves a problem. Now, sticking with that first stage, okay, the problem identification. In the example that we ran through with the phone, right? The customer showed up at the store. They have already identified a problem. They've shopped and they've shown up at a particular location. Okay.
Right.
However, in other kinds of sales, let's say door-to-door sales, where you just show up, okay, or there's certain other kinds of, let's say, complex sales, let's say B2B sales, where you're trying to solve, let's say, enterprise software. The solution is enterprise software, right? And you're
Right.
trying to sell that.
Right.
There is the question of generating the need or taking the need from a latent stage, from a dormant stage, and
Right.
then amplifying it, like boiling it up. So, what do you have to say about that? How do you identify a need to a customer or turn their heads with the right questions to realizing that they have a need, take it away from a latent need to a potent and from dormant to active, if you will? How do you work through that?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I gave obviously the most simple and the most simplified scenario.
Mm,
When it's a business to business, like you said, B2B sales, your job at that point is to create a problem or magnify a problem. So when I used to sell software for Microsoft, I had to do that. I worked at the time it was CompUSA. My job was to sell the Microsoft Media Center PCs when they just first came out. So how do you sell a computer to a customer with a TV tuner built in? So what you have to do is find out what. So in a business to business, let's just pretend that we want to sell a business a software. We are software engineers. We want to sell you a custom software that will that will allow you to be more efficient, more productive in your business and things like that. So my thing is first understand how is your business operating, and the same thing goes back to problem identification. So let's just let me give you a scenario of a business I actually sold software to. They said, "Oh, we normally just have this Word document where we just go in and put stuff in, and then when we put our inventory here, we count it, and then and I ask, how do you count it? Oh, I just look at all the numbers. I just add a calculator. So in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, that's not going to work because you can make mistakes with that, right? And then the we have different letters that we write to our customers, and employee A is responsible for the letter, that letter employee B, they had no repository of anything. So all of a sudden, can I recommend mail merge and Excel to that customer? Absolutely. If you have a Word document with a bunch of letters, you just fill in the mail merge spots, right? And you have an Excel that you're running as a database, problem solved. Does the customer have Microsoft Office in their already installed in the systems? Yes. But I said, what if we can take everything that you need into one click on your computer, and it opens up, and boom, you have your letters. Boom, you have your inventory counted. It automatically does inventory for you. What if we could do that? Well, hello, right?
mm-hmm,
But could I have left her doing what she was doing? Yes. How long has she been doing that for? For 12 years. She's fine. She's
mm-hmm,
okay with her Word documents. So what you have to do in that stage, now you have to create some havoc, right? What
Mm-hmm.
if that document was lost? I mean, have you ever thought about that? What if your
Mm-hmm.
computer had a virus? Well, that would be crazy. Well, guess what? With this program, all of your data is stored in the cloud. Whoa, that sounds like a great deal, right? So your job at that point is to magnify what the customer may have minimized as a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have no, oh, I'm just going to open up this document every day. But your job is to create the problem. Well, what if that document is lost? Because the reality is, can that document be lost? Absolutely. But
Mm-hmm.
is the customer thinking that way? No. So your job is now to inject what I call fear factors. But
Mm-hmm.
the fear factors are really not a sense of, oh, I'm going to sell you something that you don't need, but I want to give you something that will amplify, that will expedite, that will
Mm-hmm.
make you more effective, more productive. So it's a little bit more craft when it's B2B sales, because you have to think more critically,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not just sitting there waiting for you. And in most instances, B2B sales are way more difficult, because right away they know you're a salesperson. Right
Mm-hmm.
away they know you're looking for their money, right? But you
Mm-hmm.
have to present yourself that I'm not here looking for your money. I'm here to solve your problems, and I know that you'll pay me because you don't want to have those problems. Because it'll be a bigger problem to fix if you don't have this kind of thing, right? So
Yeah, B2B, especially as it touches upon this question here of finding the problem.
right,
There are people whom, because you have to, because it's not just one decision maker usually. Okay.
right,
You have this person in finance, and then you have some other person that needs to sign off, and then usually you have the end user
right,
who may have a problem,
right,
or maybe the actual work that's being done is distributed, whereby this person clicks this thing and that other person does that thing, and each person is satisfied with their own particular aspect of what they need to do,
right,
and there's no one person that's kind of overseeing and seeing the problem, and maybe that person is a couple levels up, but he doesn't even really know that it's a problem.
right,
Because it's costing him money, but he does not understand why that cost is, or that cost could actually be reduced, so on
right.
and so forth. Now, there's something that you mentioned there which is kind of interesting, and I wrote down here solution rather than product, because when you said, could I recommend to you the mail thing and Excel,
Hmm.
that'll be going to the product. But
Right,
rather you said, how about if you could just click one thing? In other words, there is a tendency for people to go to the product and start talking about the features and the benefits of a product,
right,
rather than to say, hey, what if this got lost? And what if this happened? What if that happened? What
right.
if this magical thing could happen in this way? And you haven't said anything about a product yet, because people, generally speaking, want to buy a solution,
Correct.
not a product,
Right,
right? I mean, so that is very interesting there, because you said you're going to bring up the pain with a scenario.
right,
You have them think about a scenario. How about the pain of this scenario? Make it kind of make them see it in a 360-degree way, what it could possibly cost them, so on and so forth, what the alternative is, and that begins to kind of and then let them perhaps, have you ever, like, because if these stages are a progression, now they're going to want to move into the shopping, right? Oh, well, what could be the right solution or right product to solve that could offer this solution for me, and then you could lead them to through the shopping phase, right?
right, right. Absolutely. And just to stress on that a little bit, it's important as a sales representative to be well informed of what your competitors are doing, because when you know what your competitors are doing, you can counter. And in fact, let's pause for a second and say that when you're selling a product, it's typical for you to do, study and learn your competitors and do something better that they're doing, so that the moment you're trying to sell your solution to a potential client and they bring up your competitor, you can compliment them on being so knowledgeable. Like, for example, let's assume this software, well, why can't I use Microsoft? You know what, Microsoft makes some of the greatest software out there. In fact, you already have it installed in your computer. I mean, you're right. The what you have to remember is that even though Microsoft can do this, the reports from this program will be produced in Word documents. So you've tied the quote unquote competitor to your product without disrespecting them or putting them down, while keeping your product on top of it.
Very, very key. And someone is asking, does Aitoa have his own channel? I'd love to hear more about this. And that's from King J. So where's your channel? Where can they find? I'm going to leave links in the description later on to your to New Game Productions Instagram,
Yes.
right? So and I'm also going to drop the links to American Heritage University as well. But
Thank you.
as far as the YouTube channel, where's the YouTube channel, Aitoa?
You know what? I have for those of you if you're just meeting me for the first time, I'm a man of many colors and hats, right? For the last 6 months, I mean, the start of this year, I was working on my album, and then the last few months, I've been working with a lot of artists, working on their album and their projects, while still running the university and my consulting firm. So I have like 7 or 8 videos that are on my computer, and I just have to run them through Final Cut Pro to put some polishes on them because that's just how I roll. But I definitely appreciate you guys following me on social media and all of the, the handles that Ike was going to post. And I promise a lot of content. I talk about many different things in all of my different levels of knowledge. So definitely more videos coming soon. But I've got a few videos mostly focusing on music, but definitely when he'll post the links and you can follow me, and I appreciate that.
Excellent, excellent. So basically, okay, I have left two links there, American Heritage University and also your Instagram for New Game Productions. Okay. And we're talking about sales today, but you can watch the second interview that we did on beat production. Okay.
Right, right.
And we're going to be having more of that as we go along because this right here is one of the dopest producers out there. I'm
Oh,
telling
thank
you.
you, thank you.
I
You're
am
far too
telling
kind.
you, you guys, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Okay, I know what I'm talking about, and you guys know what I'm talking. That you guys know that I know what I'm talking about. So this is a high recommendation here that you can. This is money you can take to the bank.
Thank
So
you.
Final Cut Pro, the best use of video for video editing is Final Cut Pro because you had mentioned. So why don't you answer that while I look through the rest of the chat there? Michael
Um,
Graham wants to know about Final Cut Pro.
here's what's great about Final Cut Pro. Mac focuses on user friendliness and focuses on on just being easy to get going. I've tried Adobe Premiere and I was lost for an hour. And Final Cut Pro was a lot easier to get comfortable. I think I got up and running with Final Cut Pro in about a week. And,
Mm,
and I've already made 2 music videos in as little as,
mm,
a week after I learned it, I learned how to lay the audios on top of the videos, how to put effects, transition effects. So, and it's also affordable for $200. It's worth every penny. I do have one thing I will say: you need a very high powered Mac. I have
mm,
a Mac Pro, one of the really, it's like 32 gigs of RAM. It's like 15 or 16 cores, something crazy. Definitely recommended because video production is very processor intensive.
mm.
So, but yeah, to answer your question, I use Final Cut Pro, and I use Logic as well, as far as for making music.
Excellent, excellent. And thank you, Nicer, for posting the link to the interview on the Music 101. We're going to do Music 101A or maybe Music 102, who knows, next time. And I'm going to have my setup also ready as well to make sure that we can get the best out of that. I just want to give a couple of shout outs. Okay. Okay. Shout outs to Q Dog, Cressy Jackson for the Cash App, hitting up the Cash App, the $10 Cash App. And you all do likewise, okay? It is encouraging. And I always say this, like people may ask, like, oh, why do you need my $10, Ike? Why do you need my $2, Ike? Why do you need my 99 cents? Yes, I need it. I want your 99 cents. I want it all. I want it all, ladies and gentlemen. So go over there, okay? Don't think, oh, Q Dog paid for us. No, 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 no. Put in your 2 cents, put in your 99 cents on the Cash App, all right? I want it all. All right. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Now,
And let me
move.
just comment. Let me just comment on that. I posted a video a couple of weeks ago about not being afraid to give. I don't know if any one of you have seen that. That's a powerful video. I've done that. Something that's really cool to try when you go to McDonald's or next whatever drive-through you go. Just say, "Hey, I want to pay for the next whatever cars are behind me," and I promise you, it's going to be one of the best feelings you've ever had in your life. So don't be afraid to give, because when you give, you get.
100%, 100%. And watch that video. It's a short video that of me just on the bicycle. So it's not some complex kind of thing. It just kind of goes through it
Right.
very quickly. And we over here have Covert Wolf saying, fellow introvert, trying to learn how to sell myself and to other people. Now, yes, and I'm just going to repeat that, really questions are very important in all one of these stages, which we've mentioned, which is the problem identification. Number two, shopping. Number three, decision. Number four, the purchase, right? And then
Correct.
post purchase behavior,
Right.
questions are key. It's not really so much about small talk. Small talk is a way of people getting to like you and relate with you. There are other ways for people to like and relate to you if small talk is not your strong suit. Okay. Another one is listening, because most people like to talk, even introverts. Even if you're selling to an introvert, if you're a good listener, they will talk to you. Okay. And if you ask the right questions, and I don't, if you listen to my first video on Selling 101, where I talked about, oh no, actually, now I'm getting things confused. I did an interview with Solo TV 84, and I'm probably going to make a video on this about listening skills. And we kind of touched upon it earlier on when this particular individual you used in your example said, I'm curious. And I said, oh, you're curious?
Right.
So one very important listening technique to use, okay, and a way of keeping conversations flowing is to repeat the last three words that somebody says.
Right.
Repeat the last three words that somebody says, right?
Right.
Just like that. You could have said that to me if I was like, blah, 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 and then I took the red shoes. Oh, you took the red shoes, right? And then they'll go, yeah, the red shoes, the one with the lace on the road. Oh, great. And you cannot believe we got the lasagna again. Oh, you got the lasagna again. It works like magic,
It
and you
does.
sit there and you just keep on going. They're gonna be like, oh my god, this person is the most interesting person in the world, but really you didn't say anything. They found
Right.
out nothing about you. They just talked, but all you did was show that you were interested. So that was just a little kind of a sidestep there for Covert Wolf to let you know that really listening skills, being able to hear the last thing they said, even repeating it back to them, it's called mirroring, if you want to get
Right.
into the
Right.
psychological aspect of it. But yeah, now we've talked a little bit about the problem identification. We talked about how you can dig up the problem, okay? How to make the pain go from latent to an active pain,
Right.
okay? And you create a scenario. You also sell a solution. Don't sell a product. Generally speaking, stay away from talking about your product features and benefits. You mentioned earlier that in your example, someone walked into a Verizon store and all of a sudden they start talking about the deals and the this and the that.
Right.
People, it's so expected, okay, and people don't really buy from people don't want to purchase from you if you're doing exactly what they expect you to do. Like, you're just doing your salesman thing. You're going to tell me about the product features and benefits. You're going to give me some glossy folder about, well, we're having this particular promotion right now, and if you for five easy payments of
It's
$39.99,
all yours.
it's all yours. Is like, no, 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 no. People don't want to do that. People don't want to do that. So the purchasing aspect of things, okay, you mentioned that, okay, which is purchasing. Now, and you talked about upselling vis-a-vis the purchasing phase,
Right.
okay. But I want to kind of retrace our steps back there again. If we are in a situation whereby, for example, in a complex sale, B2B sale, the
Hmm.
person that has the need is usually not the person buying, and
Correct.
the person, and they don't even know how they buy. So how do you deal with that situation where people don't even know how they buy? If it's a business to customer thing, it may be, oh, I got to talk to my wife's a decision maker kind of thing. You have to find out who the decision maker is and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
But there are many instances where people are excited about the product and
Hmm.
you think, oh my God, this is great. I'm going to close this deal. But you're not thinking, how do they actually buy? And do they even know how they buy? What are the
Hmm.
obstacles I'm going to see? Does this person even know about the obstacles, so on and so forth? So can you speak to that whole purchasing aspect in a more complex sale?
Yeah, so for starters, again, it's always about asking questions. So the first question you need to ask is, um, who's responsible for making these kind of decisions?
Mhm.
So once you understand let's assume that we run into Miss Jane, and Miss Jane is ultimately the one that calls a full decision. So you want her trust, and you get her trust by listening. You get her trust by understanding and comprehending and matching, as I mentioned earlier, those needs to the solution that you're bringing. And
Mhm.
then you want to start asking questions like, how many employees do you have who would typically use this program? Because I would imagine in B2B sales, you have to have some kind of, maybe a PowerPoint or a page, a presentation or something that you need to show the team, or have an office or a presentation where
Mhm.
you can kind of go through what solutions you can offer the company. So the in the interview process, you identify who's going to be using the software, and always be sure to compliment the Miss Jane, that of how this will make her job as a decision maker not only more respected, that she's bringing solutions to the company, but it's going to help everyone within the company to be more effective. And then there's an opportunity to kind of snoop around a little bit. So, what do you wish your employees can do better?
Mhm.
Right. So she could say, "Oh yeah, my Tom," and in your head, you just, so like what I just said, Tom. I'm sure Tom is one. He sounds like it's someone that you trust, right? So again, it's about reaffirming that you're on her side, because you really are. That's why you're there, right? So as you're asking those questions, you're making a mental note. There's Tom, and then there might be Mike, and then there's Jennifer, and then there's Susie, and then there's Luann, right? And during the interview process, your job is to find out what those five people do, and if they will be interacting with what it is that you're offering,
Mhm.
or even to some degree how they could benefit. Maybe she'll say, "Oh, I have a Luann, she hates using computers, she's always in the back." And you can say, "Well, um um what's her role, what's her responsibility?" And you can find a solution within your product that would be user friendly for you, for Luann. Now you can start talking about the features where it works with Alexa, for example, right? She doesn't even have to touch the computer. She can just say, "Alexa, run my end reports on my B2B software," and it does that. So that's an opportunity to to tie in a solution that you're bringing in that may fit or should fit what Mike needs, what Tom needs, what Jennifer, what Susie needs, and our good friend Luann in the back, right? So
Excellent. Yeah, there are many things there that you mentioned. One, which you ended with, is you always want to, in a presentation I gave earlier, I talked about an image and that you want to circle around. Now, this image in this particular case were the people, right? The
right,
people. And you want this conversation you want to be able to refer it back to that. So when you're
correct,
talking about the feature, you blah, 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 blah. That way, Luann, when she's creating right, you use something real, something that
right,
shared in that conversation. There's an image in her head of Luann, there's an image of that you have of Luann as well, and that you
right,
can keep on circling around that. Something else is you mentioned that, hey, this is something that your employees or the people under you are going to be satisfied with. They're going to be really happy.
right,
You know what? Luann is going to like you for this. And this is
right.
talking to the decision maker now. Now, in cases where, because I do a lot of B2B sales, in
Mhm.
cases where you are talking to the end user, right? And let's say you're talking to a bunch of engineers, you're selling some kind of or let's say you're talking to contractors, okay, and you're
Mhm.
selling them some kind of power tool, okay, and yeah, they love it, okay, but they have a purchasing department, they have this, that, and the other. Again, questions, 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 questions. They're super excited about it. I'm going to talk to this person and do this, that, and the other. I usually just ask this. Well, when was the last time you guys, changed over your tool crib?
Mhm.
Or you remember when you guys started using the Decker tools rather than the Makitas or whatever? And they're gonna be like, oh yeah, and this, that, and the other. Obviously, what you're trying to get to is what is their buying process? Because the buying process is not a straightforward thing. And
Right,
it usually does not the knowledge of it usually does not reside in one person's head because each of these individuals get replaced, right?
right,
So
right,
the buying still goes on. So you have this thing over here called buying, and then you have these different roles that make it happen. The people who write the invoices, or the people who pay the invoices, the people who oversee the tool crib and the management of the materials or whatever, so on and so forth. And then all these people interact to do this kind of a buying thing. And the end user over here has no idea what all these other people are doing, anyways. And needless to talk about, how the buying actually works. So you want to ask, when was the last time you guys did this? Are there any? Who else do I need to talk to regarding this? What were the roadblocks that you encountered when
Right.
you guys tried to make this switch the last time? Okay, and you begin to uncover all kinds of roadblocks that'll be on your path. Because one thing with the B2B thing is you go, you do your dog and pony show, you do your song and dance. The end user is excited, and you find a champion within the company, somebody that's like, yes, 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 this is going to be great, and you're feeling good about it.
And then
But
you run into a roadblock.
you're into a roadblock, and it's worse when you don't even anticipate that roadblock. You have
Right.
no idea. So you now have you feel super good because actually there's going to be another meeting, right? They say, okay, you know what? Come in 2 weeks. And then you come in 2 weeks, and there's this guy called Raul over there. And Raul has this kind of scowl on his face, like, and you're like, who's Raul? you know, and Raul's not feeling you. Raul doesn't like the color of your shirt. Raul hates this product. And you're like, oh my God, I thought I was in. So you need to ask, when was the last time you did this? When was the last time? Or anyways, those kinds of closing questions, super, super,
Definitely.
super,
Very
super
super
key.
important.
And then there's the follow up aspect of things. Okay, well, hold on 1 second. Let me see over here if I can read a couple of the chats here.
Okay.
Shout out to Michael Graham again, Q Dog. Oh, as always, Aaron B in the house. Aaron B in the house says, very good question. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone, says NC Worker. All right. So the follow up. How do you follow up in order to kind of a monitor or guide the post purchase behavior? Because you had mentioned
Mhm.
that right after they buy, you don't want to start saying things like, oh, this is the great, you made the best possible decision.
Right.
One, the reason you mentioned the reason being that um, you are now making them think, okay, there are other decisions, and could this possibly be the best, and so on and so forth. But also, in my mind, I wouldn't appreciate it if the salesperson says that, is because I expect them to say that. you
Right.
know what I mean? It's like you're gonna tell me, oh, you work at Crevier BMW, and you're telling me I made a great decision by buying a BMW. Of course, you're gonna tell me I made a great decision by buying a
Right.
BMW. But beyond that phase, what do you do in terms of following up to guide the post purchase behavior?
So again, so this process will depend on what product it is that you sold your customer. But if we're taking the example with the customer with the phone, a lot of times products like electronics, there's not much follow up because
Mhm.
the customer leaves, you never see them. But in that same selling environment, there were some products that required follow up when I used to sell home on audio packages, where
Mhm.
we sell internet, phone, TV, and cell phone bundles, right? It definitely follow is required. So ways of following up, I call and say, hey, I just wanted to just let you know, see how everything is going. If you have any questions, I want you to know that I'm here. You can call me, you can email me, you can text me. This might sound cliche or over the top, but you could text me anytime. The reality is no one can be texted anytime, but that's your way of just letting the customer know you're screaming, I'm available, I'm here for you, right? And it's a gift and a curse. There are times where I've done that with a customer and it got to a point where I started avoiding her because I'm like, my goodness, I mean, I just sold you the product. You could leave now, okay? It's past the return phase. So what do you want from me, right? But what that did, as much as I wasn't, as much as I was just having an honest moment there, just being overwhelmed with the customers returning. When her grandkids came around, she says, "I know this great guy at Verizon. He'll help you if you need anything." When her friend traveled in from Texas, so it brings referrals, right? You have to be prepared for that if you are the type that's willing to, go that far. So simply put, calling the customer to follow up, just see, I just want to see how everything's going. Like, Ike used an example of a BMW. Hey, I'm sure you're enjoying that BMW. I just want to see, do you have any questions for me? I want to make sure that, you're having the best experience possible, right? Things
Mhm.
like that, they reinforce the buyer's decision. Other ways you can do a follow-up, if you're not the type that likes to talk, give them your card, give them the phone number for customer service, give them the number for warranty. Explain the process that they need to go if they need to return it. As sad as that sounds, it's a selling technique to improve the post-purchase behavior. You can say, hey, if you're not satisfied, we understand. You could totally bring it back. I'll be here to help you through that. What you're basically saying is that you're going to be satisfied. But if you're not, which I will be totally surprised, you can bring it back. So the customer walks away feeling in charge. It's important for your customer to walk away and going, I'm the boss. I can bring this back. I had a funny story I'm going to share with y'all. There was a lady, she was complaining that she was having difficulty um, with her hours, and a few weeks later, she came to work with a brand new car. We're looking at her going, I thought you were just talking about your hours are tough. Yeah, but this sales guy was so charming and he was so, so we obviously got together and we put some sense in her head. We said, you better go back and return this, right? So she comes back the next day with an Escalade. So she went from I think it was a brand new Camry to an Escalade. She was like, it was a really good deal, right?
Oh my
you know, so that is a salesman that knows. He says, "I got you," right? So,
Oh my God, this is
and
that's
she said it was only $150 more, and I've always wanted an Escalade, right? So, what's the point of that story is that you can make such an impression on your customer that even when they come back wanting to return the damn product, they're gonna get a better one, and even get you more money in your pocket. So, following up and it's just creating. So it's like as I mentioned in the first series, it's a 30-second friendship. You want to appear to be their friend. Are they really your friends? No, but you want to sow that seed because that is what will keep you in sales. Because the truth of the matter is, if
mm,
you're selling a product that's solving a customer's problem, you're not a salesman, you're a problem solver. And everyone wants to be, they want to hang out with problem solver. We all
mm,
want someone that can solve our problems, whether it's a plumber, whether it's a mechanic. We'd like to have someone fix it for us. So your job is to fix the customer's problem, and the way to solve, to keep that momentum is by letting the customer know, hey, I'm available for you. Explain the refund process, the refund policy. Explain if you need help with customer service, this is a number to call. Give them your business card. And I do this all the time. I'll put my in quote cell phone number on there, but it's really my Google Voice number, things
mm,
like that. And I'll make sure I write it on the side just to make it feel special. I'm just gonna put this here. This is my cell phone, my direct number.
mhm,
It just makes it feel a little saucier. But the reality is, that number is on the web. It's a public number. So you have to use those. And it again, you're not taking advantage or tricking the customer. Someone had mentioned that in our last series, but
mhm.
you're telling the customer how legit you are, right? And if you're not legit, most customers will sniff right through it.
Excellent, excellent, excellent point. A couple of things I just want to say regarding this follow up here and why how important it is, especially when you're doing something where there will be repeat business within a territory. So if you're a salesperson that covers the territory, all right, maybe you sell AT&T services door to door, or let's say in my particular case, if you're selling engineering services, products, and software, okay, to contractors. Okay, these contractors are building Googles, Facebooks, and Apples, and all these other things over here in the Bay Area. Your particular territory is South San Francisco, let's say. The thing about it is this: the best performing salespeople you will find have been around for a long time. I'm just talking about total dollars now.
Right.
Okay. People who make the most in this kind of a territory kind of sales, they've been around for the longest time and they don't do a lot of work. Well, why? Because they have sown the seeds. Okay. They
That's
have
right.
solved the problem for everybody. Everybody knows them. Everybody knows that they have solved the problem. So to Covert, what was his name again? Covert, the person who talked about being the introvert, okay? Covert Wolf, okay? You talked about a 3 second friendship,
30
okay?
seconds.
30 seconds. 3 seconds, okay.
Three's a little quick.
That's a little quick. 30 second friendship, okay? And an introvert might be a little worried about that because a lot of times introverts are too in their head and too, it's like, come on. But look, I mentioned in the last part of the last sales conversation we had that the introvert has his advantage that he's bringing in, which is they tend to be trusted more. The person who is obviously you got to be competent and so on and so forth, right? You're competent, you're showing your competency, you're coming there with some street cred or whatever it may be, and then you're a little quieter and a good listener. people trust that person more than the guy who is slapping your back every second, laughing that fake laugh every whatever, and just constantly talking about the weather and sports and your wife and all that stuff all the time. Okay, so you're coming in with the trust factor plus these simple things like following up. And where's one thing that I do? Okay, and I know we're we're going off into a tangent, and we'll close fairly quickly because I didn't want this to be a particularly long one. All right. And over here, while I'm just saying that, Tavana Perry says, I am more likely to buy if I don't feel like the salesperson is going to pull into thin air, poof into thin air once I purchase. Yes, yes, yes. Talking about the follow-up. Okay. Now, the thing that I do, okay, well, let me ask you this. And this has to do with upselling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You mentioned upselling, and we were talking within the case of a case, a cell phone case.
Right.
In the case of the cell phone case, and like, oh yeah, they purchased the cell phone. Oh, I see that you have the case there. You may blah blah blah. You look like you keep your phones well. You may want this, so that and the other. What are the other techniques that you use? Maybe it's the Cutco knives, right? And they've bought one kind of a thing. How do you upsell? Is there a particular underlying principle to it, or is it just restarting of the process? In other words, going back to finding a new problem, making it rather than being a latent problem, right? To an
Mm-hmm.
active problem where you're like, oh, that knife will. What about if you drop that knife or something like that, right? Well, how do you think about upselling?
Well, let's take the gentleman that says, I'm just curious shopping, right?
Mhm,
The more it's very important, y'all, to ask a lot of questions. So in that time, I mentioned that we had a promotion where you can buy one get one free. Okay.
mhm,
But I'm not worried about that. So I just know that he is the most important person. So your customer has to feel like they are extremely important. At that point, do not look at your cell phone, do not entertain anything else. Keep your eyes focused on the customer because you make them feel important. Okay.
mhm,
So in the process of doing that, you're asking questions. So let's just imagine the same guy comes in, he has a problem, he's just curious. We've upsold him on the phone. And then when you're about to ring up the phone and you are saying, so what's your night like? Oh, I'm gonna go home and my wife's probably waiting for me. Oh, does your wife have an account too? She does. Oh, really? Is it? Oh, yeah, I do see it here. Now, obviously, when you log into the customer's account, you can see it, but you're not saying anything. Oh, that's your wife. Oh, we have a buy one get one free. You're kidding me, right? And
mhm.
then he says, hold on. And then you've already turned off my phone for the activation. Oh, you can use my phone. What's your wife's phone number? You dial the number, right? And then you give him the phone. Hey, babe, I'm at Verizon and they're going to give us a free iPhone 12. Really? Well, and then the wife is going to, and you hear him and the wife talking, and then you look on the account, you see two other phones. What about my girls? Right. And then that's again, understanding you also have to understand your product. So when we had the buy one, get one free, it was buy one, get another one free. If you did another transaction, it was buy one, get one free. And then I would just sneakily tell the customer, well, look, if we finish this transaction, I could technically get you another the same offer for your kid. You're kidding me, right? All of a sudden, you're the hero. So in asking questions and paying attention to your customer, they'll tell you. The more you ask, the more you pay attention, they'll tell you more. So upselling requires understanding what your customer is looking for. Let's take another quick scenario. Customer wants to get a big screen TV. I'm here to get an 80-inch TV. Well, fantastic. We've already been past three stages. Your needs already been met. You've already done your research. You're here to buy, and I'm here to sell. Well, maybe if you get incentives, if they get maybe the overall ticket price is higher.
Mhm.
Well, we know you want an 80-inch TV. Now, did you know that there are different kinds of 80 inches? There's 3 levels of high definition. Well, tell me more. And then you find out they like sports and you save that in your back pocket. And they're saying, I just want a basic TV. And you say, well, did you know that with the 85-inch TVs, they're perfect for sports, especially football?
Mhm. Oh, I think.
Presenting it that simple only, it just suddenly feels like it's just $200. I mean, you're already here spending $2,500 for this TV for $200 more. And then that's how you upsell. So you upsell by understanding your customer's problems, and you are the problem solver. You have the solution to the customer's problem. And now the upsells are luxury items. For a little bit more, you get a bigger you get a bigger screen, or for a little bit more, or hey, right now we have a special. If you buy a TV, you get $200 off any Blu-ray player. Hey, since you already spent this much, you get a Blu-ray player for $50. So, because you're going to need some high definition content after getting this nice, lovely HD TV. So it goes further as far as understanding what your customer needs, what your customer wants, making sure that you meet the needs first, and then the want. Like the story I gave earlier, the she went to buy a car. The sales rep knew she needed a car, but
Mm-hmm.
she said with her mouth, "I always wanted, not needed. I always wanted an Escalade." So instead of returning the Camry, she drove off with with an Escalade. So upselling is understanding your customers' wants, but selling is understanding your customers' needs.
Very, very good. So the five stages, the five stages of buying, okay, understanding consumer buying behavior, both if you are a consumer or if you are an active seller. And in most instances in life, or should I say, in your life, you're going to be playing both roles, okay?
Correct.
Now, to harp upon the thing that we always harp upon us soft skill people, we always say, hey, no matter what you're doing, the higher up you go, the more you're going to be selling something. Okay. You
Correct.
can start off as Ice Cube, F the police straight from the underground. And then now you're selling the plan for Black America and going from Fox News, so on and so forth, selling, talking to Donald Trump. How did that happen?
Right.
Trust, no matter what, you want to move up in it, it you're going to need the soft skills because money is in the pockets of people. Okay. And in order for you to go get the money from people, you need these soft skills. Everything that you want, someone else has. Okay. And just being a cog in the wheel is not where you want to end up. You want to go from being the cog in the wheel to maybe someone that's actually making decisions as to where the wheel goes. You're going to need to influence other people. You're going to need to be able to persuade other people. And this is what the soft skills are.
That's right.
So sales has a negative connotation. Everyone thinks, oh, that guy, the used car salesman, is sleazy, whatever, and so on and so forth. But look, it's about influencing people. It's about getting what you want. So the five stages, number one, finding, okay, basically identifying the problem. Okay.
Right.
You identify the problem. You want to know which stage that they're in, if they have already identified the problem, or you want to identify the problem for them and make it a latent, go from latent to whatever. And I don't know how you doing on time. I'm wrapping up right now, but
Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
And you want to go from a dormant problem to make it an actual real problem. Make it, make them see like, oh, what if this happened, and what if that happened, and
Scenarios.
scenarios, put scenarios in their mind, and then you want to sell solutions. You want to say,
Correct.
hey, would it be better if we could do this, right? That kind of a thing. And then there's a shopping phase. Obviously, they're going through and looking, they want to know their options. Okay. The
Correct.
shopping phase is almost like the part where the rational mind is trying to act like it is in control. Selling is an emotional process. Okay. Even if it's a business sale or so on and so forth, it's an emotional thing.
Correct.
Okay. So, but the rational mind needs to do is due diligence. Okay. And
Correct.
especially based on the personality types. If you're selling to engineer types, you you want to let them know, okay, okay, well, you understand the problem. Now we're in the shopping phase. Great, I have your data sheet right here for you. It breaks everything down. Then I'll come back. I'll talk to you tomorrow. He's
Right.
gonna feel satisfied because think about these, you know, the left brain people, if you will, is or those your left brain side is it does not like to have the wool pulled over its eyes. It does not want to, even if, like, for example, even if I know what I'm gonna buy already, I just at least want to go through,
The
right, and
process.
just go through the process. Okay, so
Right.
don't try to rush your customers. They're gonna have to do their shopping. Okay, and then they're gonna make a decision. That's the decision stage number three, and then there is the purchase. Okay, and in the purchase, that's where the upselling comes through, or that's where the close happens. And
Yep.
watch my video about selling 101. Simplicity basically is the key to closing, and
Right.
closing really is about unearthing the right or the correct objection. In other words, the first thing that they tell you is usually not the reason why they're not going to buy,
Right.
right? So you want to say, well, the one that I use, okay, I always use this. First of all, I bring up an objection, right? One objection that is always there, even if you have a perfect product. One objection that is always possibly there is that they've never bought this product from you before. So you can
Right.
say, besides the fact that you've never used us before, is there any other reason why you would not make this purchase? In other words,
You get rid of that one.
you get rid of that one, okay, and you get them thinking, like, why wouldn't I buy this? And then they say, well, you know what? It's probably because, this, that, and the other. And what I do is, rather than stop at that one thing, let's say maybe they say it's because of X, and I'll say, okay, great. That makes perfect sense. Always acknowledge the existence of X.
Of
That
course.
makes perfect sense that you said X. Okay. This is true. Yes. And I knew about X before I came here. Yes, I know. Maybe X's price. So
Right.
yeah, I know it's expensive. Trust me, it is
Empathy.
expensive. It's expensive. Okay. I knew that before I came here. Besides the fact that it's expensive, is there any other reason why you wouldn't buy it?
Let's get
Because
rid of all of them.
you would be surprised how people can just jump past expensive
Right.
because again, it's an emotional decision.
Right.
Okay, and let's say because they really love BMWs or something, and you can just tell them, hey, besides the fact that it's only $100 more per month, is there any other reason? And now they're past $100 per month. Now they're like, you know what, really, that plush leather, that soft foot mat and all that, $100 a month. You know what? There is
Yeah,
no
I'll just
other
go with it.
reason. There's no other reason why I wouldn't buy it. Okay, so closing is about finding the real objection because the first and the second and the third layer of objection, because people usually don't want to tell you the real objection because they feel vulnerable. They
Right.
don't have the
Right.
power. They don't have the secret little stash of information that you don't have. And you just want to take one step into that room of objections, like,
Page
oh,
at a time.
one at a time, next objection. And then you may find out that, oh, it's an insurmountable objection, right? And then it's fine. You're not going to close 100%, right? And then we have the post purchase behavior, which
Correct.
is you want to guide that, you want to understand that, you want to follow up. And in this particular case, where there is going to be repeat sales, I mentioned earlier about developing a territory. You develop a territory and you become known for that, and then you get all the sales. People come to you. You've solved many problems for many different people. All you got to do is pick up a phone and say, hey, you know what? I need this, that, and the other. And people will tell you stuff. Now, there's something else when it comes to business development or developing your own business. One thing I do, and it's tangentially related, not very directly related, has to do with referrals. Okay. And I'm sure you know,
Yep.
especially in referrals are a big deal when it comes to business, right?
Absolutely.
Whether it's a restaurant or you are a carpenter, you are an electrician, you install air conditioners, this, that, and the other, referrals are huge. Referrals are huge. We refer people all the time. And you will find that when you ask a lot of business people, what is the number one or what is the main source of your driver of your business? How do you acquire more customers? They'll tell you, you know what? Actually, it is referrals.
Right.
Referrals are easier to close.
That's
Okay,
right.
they've already gone past a lot of the stages which you
That's
mentioned. Okay,
that's right. Exactly.
there's a need, they've shopped, they've made a decision because somebody has vouched for you, so on and so forth. Okay, but however, a lot of businesses don't have an active process by which they generate more referrals. So here's one thing that I tend to do right in the beginning of the sales process. At some point, I tell the client, I tell the prospect that, hey, over here at Prometheus Engineering, the way in which we really grow our business is through referrals. Okay, referrals are our main source of business. What that tells the client, first of all, okay, let's just pause there, is that they understand that, oh, this guy is good enough to actually get referrals, right? Which is key, right?
Right.
That we get a lot of referrals here, and referrals are a main source of our business. Okay, all that we ask, okay, all that we ask is if you're satisfied, we want you to refer us to another one of your clients, a client of equal caliber, or not
Right.
client, colleague, a colleague of equal caliber. Now, that equal caliber part, you can make it whatever you want, but the reason I use the equal caliber is because I'm putting them on a pedestal. I'm
Right.
saying,
Of course.
hey,
That's important.
you're the man. I would like
Hmm.
to talk to other people of your caliber, okay?
Right.
Like, I want to talk to other people in
With your
that.
mindset.
Exactly. People of your mindset, people who are out there getting things done, people who are out there, thinking outside the box, people who are out there who are decision makers, who are doers. Do whatever it is. People, what, we would like to talk to other people with the homes as beautiful as yours. I don't know, maybe you're selling cabinets, whatever it is.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Right. That's important.
So Point is, you know that referrals are key in your business. You know that it is very important, but you don't have an active method by which you get referrals. I say start from the very beginning, even if you haven't closed the deal yet. Okay, make it seem it's actually now a way of kind of establishing rapport and a relationship with this person. Like, hey, you know what? All we ask is if you're satisfied, if we close this deal and you're satisfied with what you get, all we ask, because guess what, he might refer you even if he doesn't buy, because there may be other reasons why he doesn't buy,
That's
right? But
true.
it's gonna be like, you know what, someone, he's talking to a buddy of his, a colleague of his, another carpenter, another project manager, whoever it is you're selling to, wherever your business is, he's going to say, hey, here's the person. And that thing, year after year after year, will continue. You're going to get a random phone call. You're going to pick
That's
up the
right.
phone and you're going to be like, oh, well, how did you hear of me? And boom, it's because of this guy that I sold something to a year ago. And it goes to that post purchase behavior as well, in the sense that I do follow up and say, in my follow up, not only am I trying to keep them satisfied and try to get more business, I always say, and don't forget, our business is mainly about referrals. Please refer us to a colleague of yours of equal caliber, so on and so forth. So
Right.
all through the process, I'm letting them know this is how we get the business. If you're satisfied, let somebody know. And then after we follow up, we say, hey, how is everything going? Please refer, and it's a good way to ask for more business. In other words, you don't ask for more business, you just ask for a referral. Like 2 months later, you call them like ask for a referral, right?
Right.
And they're like, you know what? Actually, I'm going to refer myself. Anyways, so this has been another great, great, great episode.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thanks to Nicer as usual, dropping the links for American Heritage University. Aitoa is the president of American Heritage University, and
Right.
also dropping the links for the Instagram New Game Productions. Check out his music productions in there, and perhaps at some point he's gonna have some YouTube videos. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Something might
Yeah,
happen.
they're like I said, they're in my hard drive. I just gotta, run them through Final Cut Pro, clean up some stuff, and I'll post some more as I get as the time permits. I've been, like I said, working on a lot of music projects, but Thanksgiving is gonna free up some more time, so I hope to be caught up at that point.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Now we're gonna go ahead and close this, ladies and gentlemen. This was a nice, clean episode. You want to understand the consumer behavior because you want to know what stage they're in, so that you're not just running your program, you are running the program based on where they're at. I like your cake analogy. Okay, you can't just take the client and put them into the oven if you haven't mixed up the ingredients yet. And I know I'm
Right.
mixing metaphors. I'm talking about, yeah, the client was there, but basically you get what I'm saying,
I
right?
do. I
You got to
do.
purchase the stuff, take it out of the package, mix it in the right proportions, use your little food processor, do this and the other. So there's stages to the game. You cannot skip over the stages. Okay. So you can't just run your program. And the way in which you both find out what stage they're in and also close or upsell or follow up is with questions.
That's
Questions
right.
are the whole thing. And if you want a system for how you ask questions, just repeat the last thing the person says and maybe with a question mark inflection.
Right.
With a question mark inflection?
Right.
Yeah, with a question
You're
mark.
just curious, right? Yeah, curious. Now, I just want to quickly add something. The one of the things that used to work for me a lot in sales and continues to do so, you want to be as memorable and as
Mm,
likable as possible. Because when you're memorable, when you're likable, sometimes that just cuts through all the other stuff, and the likability and and being memorable factor is important in referral. I started my consulting firm in 2003. I have never advertised, and I've been in business since then. It's all been referrals. So likability is key. I think someone mentioned earlier about being an introvert. You could be an introvert and be likable. What Ike mentioned is funny that he mentioned that. I started replaying a lot of moments. I do that a lot. I'll have an artist that says, yeah, I like singing the key of F. Oh, you like the key of F? That's a good key. And I just go to F. Or I have one that says, I like when my beats a little faster. Oh, you like fast beats, huh? Okay. And it reinforces your likability because no one likes oh, I like fast. Oh no, I don't think fast beats are good. You should go slow. I mean, no one likes such a person. So in sales, just repeat and be likable. You could be nice and be quiet. We all have cats when they're at their nicest moods, and I'm not saying we all have cats. If you're familiar with the cat, when it's in its nicest mood, it makes no sounds at all. It's just purring, right? So an introvert, you could just purr, and you could purr by smiling, nodding, agreeing. And sometimes in sales, less is really more, right? So that's my final thought. Just be likable, be memorable, do something memorable, say something memorable, comment on something that they won't forget you. And what that does is you create a mark in their head. And then, like Ike said earlier, even if they don't buy from you, they'll send someone to you, go, he's a really nice guy. And of course that puts pressure on you, because when the next client comes, they might not be as fun as the previous, but you got to work your magic, right? Because the 5 steps of buying.
Exactly. And to just wrap it up, and that is why I made that video called "You're Not Doing as Well as You Think You Are," or as you feel you are, because you have to always practice. Okay, you have to always be practicing. So when that next client comes that was referred, okay, you don't have to worry about, oh my God, am I going to be able to do my thing tomorrow? It's like, no, because you're going to be practicing regardless, whether it's a new person or an old person, and so on and so forth. Self-presentation is key. Holding your craft is key. Okay, leaving an impression on them. It could be as easy as, obviously, you have to have the presentation. You got to dress properly, ladies and gentlemen, right? You got to present yourself in a particular way. So stop with the BS. You're not Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, he can afford now to be wearing his gray t-shirts. Okay, yes, he can. When you have a billion, when you have a few billions, when you have 100
you can
billion,
afford to do that.
You can do that, okay? Because the $100 billion is screaming behind you. There's a whole choir and live fireworks and all that stuff going on behind you. But you, with your great t-shirt and none of that stuff, get the hell out of here. Unless you have something. Well, look, you want to have that going. You want to have your game tight. You want to have your product, your delivery, all that stuff tight, and you can learn it. Okay, the introvert thing, I keep on mentioning it because I know it's the last excuse that most people have. But trust me, I'm an introvert. Okay, I'm an introvert, but still, the art of self-presentation, the art of influence, the art of persuasion, the art of stagecraft is something that I know has nothing to do with whether you're an extrovert or not. It is a skill, and you just simply do it. And we know that many performers are introverts, not because, and I don't think it's because they have a particular advantage in it. It's just, it's another kind of a correlation type of thing, in the sense that in order to get really good at, let's say, playing the guitar, let's say, Eddie Van Halen, rest in peace, right? To get that good, okay, you got an introvert side at least, right? Because these are solitary activities, okay? So, and when you're that good, you can just come in out there and you can be yourself, you can be comfortable, which was what gets translated out, okay, into the world.
That's right.
People love it. People love it when you're dancing like you don't care, because you're that good, because you've spent a lot of time knowing that you're that good, blah, blah, blah. Not going to keep on going on and on, okay? Now, exactly. We're going to go ahead and end this, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Aitois, for joining us again. And thank you guys. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and end this. I didn't think I was going to play the song today, but yeah, let's go ahead and end it with our theme song as usual. Battle Within. Peace.
On the shore, relentless in the war, the legions in our hearts, shed waters in our voice, the spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest, the cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand, stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. With the semblance of a blaze, with gratitude and rage. We touch another page with delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we born Babylon. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. The world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within.